WWE Bad Blood, the return of the October tradition going back 27 years. Well, it's not really a tradition. They've only done it a couple times in October, but Bad Blood has returned from the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. I almost went to this show. I couldn't go last minute, but I almost went. And there were a couple of big things on this show. This was, even though you may think of it as a B show, this was not a B show. The return of Roman Reigns for the first time since WrestleMania in a match. The return of Jimmy Uso. And the return of the final boss, The Rock, to close out the show. So things are getting really interesting. Things are heating up in WWE. Very exciting time right now as the build to WrestleMania really begins now. Obviously, it's not the Royal Rumble yet, but there were things set in motion here that are going to lead to WrestleMania. I'm going to talk about that as we go through, but a very solid pay-per-view. There wasn't that much that I could honestly say was bad. There were a few things that left me scratching my head, though, and we're going to get to it. So, the show opened, first of all, with Samantha Irvin singing God Bless America. I don't understand why. The national anthem, God Bless America, and stuff like America the Beautiful usually is only at WrestleMania. There have been some other shows, but they chose Bad Blood for some reason. They showed that Triple H had arrived and he had a historic announcement. So, no clue what that is, but we did find out. So, Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and Naomi hosted, and really all they did was just be involved in some segments. They were in the ring. At one time, they were in the back with some WWE legends, like they introduced Scott Steiner, they introduced X-Pac, they introduced Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, DDP, some Mickey James, some real dignitaries there at the show. And Goldberg was there, and so was Killer Mike. So they opened the show with the Hell in a Cell. Now, I was very confused because, let's be honest, let's keep it real. CM Punk and Drew McIntyre is the best feud in wrestling in 2024. 9 months of greatness. A couple of their matches, like the first one that they had at SummerSlam, was a little bit of a letdown, but this match right here made up for everything. This was one hell of a Hell in a Cell match. Now, again, to me, this should have closed the show because it was the end of the feud. However, because the final boss, The Rock, returned, that's why they ended it with that, because it was the shocker ending. Now, it's kind of funny because if you remember, let's go back about 11 years, when The Rock came back in 2013, there was talk that CM Punk was upset because The Rock was taking his spot at WrestleMania and taking the spot of some of the guys in the company. And there was a lot of talk about that. I mean, CM Punk for a long time was very upset. I find it quite coincidental that it's 2024 and CM Punk is probably supposed to close this show originally, but then here comes Dwayne to take the spotlight. I'm not mad about it, like honestly as a fan, but I would not be surprised if Punk was deep down inside. So this match with McIntyre and Punk was double juice. They both bled, and honestly, gentlemen and ladies watching this review, I cannot remember the last time we saw a WWE match have double juice. We've seen blood, and by the way, in case you don't know, double juice means both guys bleed. We've seen blood make a comeback on rare occasions lately, and this is the right time to do it. This was brutal. We saw toolboxes, we saw tables. They really used the Hell in a Cell. They really told a story. If this wasn't the best Hell in a Cell match, it was easily in the top 3. Absolutely terrific. McIntyre was taunting CM Punk. It was almost like David and Goliath because McIntyre kept coming. Like McIntyre was kind of like the Terminator, and Punk could not put him away. And these guys, this was a war of attrition. At one point, Punk hits the GTS, but McIntyre rolls to the outside. And then they do a Claymore kick. He goes for another Claymore kick. He misses. Punk put him in a very sloppy sharpshooter. They were trying to do a tribute to the WrestleMania 13 match with Austin and Brett. It's just that Punk did not apply the sharpshooter properly. It's just going to be honest. I know he loves Brett, but that's not what it was. Now, I didn't want to say that McIntyre's bleeding, he bled. I mean, it almost felt like he bladed twice because he bled, then he bled more later in the match. That was interesting. They had a spot where McIntyre did a suplex from the apron to the floor through this extra long-looking table. What ended up happening was McIntyre's trying to get these steel steps put in the ring, the big steel steps. And I'm not sure if he was selling or actually having problems doing it because, in case you don't know, those steel steps are very, very, very heavy. And yes, McIntyre's a strong guy, but that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's still, he's strong, but it's heavy. I mean, usually it takes two people to carry that thing. But he got it in the ring, and what ended up happening is McIntyre pulled out a bag that people thought was thumbtacks, but I knew it wasn't. I knew it had to do with the bracelet, and lo and behold, it was the beads from the bracelet. Drops it all over Punk's like head. He goes for the Claymore, and Punk moves out of the way, and it looks like McIntyre either hit his ass or his tailbone, which is kind of the same thing, on the steel steps. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever had a bruised tailbone or a broken tailbone. I have. I had a bruised tailbone because many years ago I was moving from one apartment to another, and I was moving a drawer down the stairs, and I lost my balance, and my ass hit the stairs, like the steps behind me, and went right into it. Dude, I could not sit for weeks. It was like 3 weeks because it was so painful. I really hope that Drew did not hurt himself here. I really hope he didn't. Hopefully it wasn't on that part of the body. It's hard to tell. So what happened was Punk, the finish was awesome. Punk wrapped a chain around his knee and hit the go to sleep for the 1, 2, 3. They did this thing where Punk needed medical attention. And so they're both like all groggy, and out comes the medical team to give him oxygen. This was pretty interesting because, this was a phenomenal match. This is the best match that CM Punk has had since coming back to wrestling. Like, this outdid the Darby Allin match. This outdid the Moxley matches and the Hangman Page. And I would say this even outdid the dog collar match with MJF and AEW. I was at that show live, and that was a great match. I think this one outdid it. Like I said, this match is one of the great all-time Hell in a Cell. Now, I wanted to discuss the whole oxygen thing. So I don't know if you guys know, but back in the day, some of the All Japan main events where they go 30, 35 minutes, they would give the guys oxygen. Now, on one hand, it is good to do that. On the other hand, like for health, but on the other hand, the idea is that these guys have wrestled to their near death, and you need like help breathing and whatnot. So it just, all it does is sell the brutality of the match more. So that was cool. Now, they introduced Jacqueline, who looks completely different than I had ever remembered. Lillian Garcia, Booker T. Then the next match was Nia Jax and Bayley. I liked this match. I actually, I thought it'd be the weakest match on the show, and I guess in some ways it sort of was, but by no means was this bad. The big surprise, and they had a good match. I mean, they really did have a good match. Nia Jax, though, she does move sometimes where it looks awkward because of her size. Like, there were a couple spots where I looked a little bit brutal, and Bayley had to work around her. So the big surprise was that Tiffany Stratton came back, and the story that they're teasing, which is pretty cool, is that Bayley is telling Nia Jax that Tiffany's going to turn on her and cash in. But Tiffany's saying, no, I would never do that, right? Obviously, it's going to happen at some point. They teased it here. It didn't happen. And it wound up leading to Bayley getting squashed, getting beat by the bonsai drop from Nia Jax after Tiffany hit her with the briefcase. I mean, the thing is, there's two ways they can go with this. One, Nia Jax goes babyface because Tiffany turns on her and Tiffany becomes a dastardly heel who steals the title from Nia. Or two, which is what I think they're going to do, and that is when Tiffany does cash in on Nia, because Nia is so disliked, Tiffany would become the babyface. So that's the way I see them doing it, one or the other. Good match, though. Again, some weird stuff, but not boring at all. So they had Xavier Woods plugging Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Very interesting. If you know about my other channel, Geekdom 101, which is my Dragon Ball channel. Kind of funny that my two worlds are colliding here. And Dragon Ball Sparking Zero presented this very next match, which was Damian Priest, Finn Balor. This match was very different. It was a good match. I'm not going to say it was a great match. Like, it wasn't an all-timer, but it was good for what it was. A lot of strikes. I noticed that the story here was that both guys were big-time strikers. And so we saw a lot of like reversals. Like the thing that impressed me most about the match was the reversals and the storytelling. So at one point they did a spot which I thought was awesome where Finn Balor hit multiple coup de grace on Damian Priest in different parts of his body, right, to try to get the pin. But then Priest catches him with the choke slam. And the what is it called? Heaven Below? Or I always forget the name of that. With the choke slam, bro. The sit out choke slam. Gets the 1, 2, 3. So that, I guess that means that part of this feud is over, bro. At least, or it might be over. But not entirely. We're going to talk about that. So Triple H comes out. And they, Triple H reveals that at Crown Jewel, they're going to do what they sort of used to do at Survivor Series, which is have the champions of each brand wrestle each other. So Cody will wrestle Gunther, and presumably, and we'll talk more about what happened in a minute. Liv Morgan will wrestle Nia Jax, heel versus heel, unless Rhea Ripley gets the title before then. So, and then the winner of the match is going to get a special Crown Jewel Championship. I don't think it's going to be a title that's going to be defended. It's going to be like an annual thing, sort of like a like a trophy more than like a championship, right? And it's going to be for the women and the men's titles, and it's going to be the Crown Jewel Championship. They also announced that this show was the largest arena gate in company history. They say that every month, it seems like, right? So Gunther comes out. And he talks about the whole Sami Zayn thing. And honestly, that match should have been on this show. So Gunther points to Goldberg. And they do a segment which was very interesting based on the Raw recently with Bret Hart, where they are teasing that Goldberg wants to fight this guy. Now, he was super over in that building. The people were going nuts for Bill Goldberg. Goldberg jumps the rail. Security comes out to stop Goldberg, and because I guess Gunther made fun of Goldberg's son. Remember Gage? He was like that chubby kid from the Brock Lesnar era, 2017. Now he's like jacked. So then what happens is Goldberg wants to get in the ring, and then Sami Zayn comes up from the other side and attacks Gunther, and they start brawling into the aisle and whatnot. And then Goldberg was all mad. Triple H raises his hand, and it was a fun moment for Goldberg. Like, I don't ever want to see Goldberg wrestle again, but I wouldn't be against seeing him maybe have one more match with Gunther. Maybe. It's just that his last few matches were pretty damn terrible. Although this Roman match I liked. Maybe they can do one more with Gunther, but it looks like they're definitely teasing that for some time down the road. Don't know when. So they did a segment with Chelsea Green smelling like garbage, which is stupid. That it didn't make any sense. There was a dumpster match last night, but Chelsea Green obviously took a shower after that. Like, this is like stupid Vince McMahon comedy, like during like the horrible period. Like, that's what this reminds me of. So we then had the women's world title, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, and for the women's title, and Dominic was going to be suspended in a shark cage. Morgan and Dominic came into the building with a lowrider. That was cool. And then Dominic was on the shark cage and they raised it up. The match was pretty decent. Now, I do have criticisms because clearly this feud is not over at all by any means. So Dominic's in the cage, and at one point the cage door opens. And as the women are having their match, and by the way, it was a good match. Rhea Ripley, the story of the match was that Rhea Ripley was just the stronger physical athlete, and Liv Morgan had to like work her way around it. The psychology was sort of like Priest and Finn Balor, because the babyface was the bigger, stronger character, but the dastardly heels were obviously going to help. So at one point, it was funny. Dominic slips and is dangling upside down from the shark cage like a pinata, and Rhea Ripley grabs the kendo stick to whack him. And while that's going on, Raquel Rodriguez returns for the first time in, feels like a few months. Beats up on Liv Morgan. That causes a disqualification. The ring announcer, I don't believe, ever actually said it was a DQ. And then Raquel just lays out Ripley. So this, I think, was a fail. The match was fine. The work was fine. The women really worked hard. But they teased Rhea Ripley getting revenge on Dom, which is going to happen. It's only a matter of time. But disqualification finishes, I mean, I thought the one at the Royal Rumble with Kevin Owens and Logan Paul was actually pretty creative and very old school. Having just a random run-in lead to a DQ in 2024, I don't know how I feel about that, but I also think that it feels like Rhea is going to get the shot on TV at some point and get it back then. It seems. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. So then we have the main event. Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns against Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu. Cody came to the ring with a marching band. Roman got the Philharmonic Georgia Orchestra to play him to the ring. Really, really fun main event, but completely overshadowed by the opener. The Hell in a Cell match was the real main event. This match right here, though, felt like something from a different era. This was booked very similar to the Mega Powers against the Mega Bucks from SummerSlam 88. You've got Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan basically being Roman Reigns and Cody, the two top baby faces that were rivals. And then you've got, on the other side, Solo, the new Tribal Chief, and Jacob Fatu, the next in line to be the next big star. They had a really basic tag team match. Very basic match. The highlights were that near the end, Cody jumped off the top of the... Cody kind of gave Roman the spotlight here because it was Roman's first match back. He jumped off of the top rope, the little pole, to lay out Jacob. So that's the last we saw of him for a while. And then, of course, Roman's about to pin Solo. Here come Tama Tonga Tangaloa. And then the big surprise. And the way they did this was weird because they had a guy show up with a hoodie on. And we already knew it was Jimmy Uso because it's the same thing they did at SummerSlam last year. But Tama Tonga and Tangaloa are just looking at him, not doing anything. And it's like, dude, attack him. Do something. So he takes off the hoodie. And it's Jimmy Uso who helps Roman Reigns and Cody clean out the Gorillas of Destiny and everybody else. Roman spears Solo, gets the 1-2-3, and is declared victorious. After the match, the new Bloodline starts attacking Cody, and as Roman and Jimmy are walking to the back, Jimmy's like, what do you want to do? Should we go or should we stay? Prior to that, actually, they had a really great moment where Jimmy and Roman hugged. The only one we're waiting for now is Paul Heyman. That's the last piece of the puzzle. And, of course, Jey Uso. And that's gotta lead to something, man. You cannot leave Jey out of this story. So what happens is Roman comes out and saves Cody, Roman and Jimmy Uso. Then Roman grabs the Undisputed title and looks at it. Obviously, the story here is that he wants his rematch. He wants the title back. He was the longest reigning champion of this era. First time since, the Hogan, Pedro Morales, Bruno era. And he gives the belt to Cody because he acknowledges that right now Cody's the man. Then the final boss music hit. The Rock comes out and he's basically doing something with his fingers to signify that he comes out. And first of all, he does the people's eyebrow because now he's seeing Roman Reigns and Cody together. Remember, the last time that he saw Roman Reigns was at WrestleMania when they worked together against Cody and Seth. And this was obviously done. The Rock came out with that Muhammad Ali title. This was obviously done to build up the fact that The Rock is going against Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. That's been the plan for a while now. And this is like a reminder like, hey, The Rock is still creeping. The Rock is still coming. So I don't know where they go from here, though. Like, there's a few things they could do. Obviously, Cody and Gunther's going to be the match for Crown Jewel, but they've also got Survivor Series War Games coming up, and I could totally see the Bloodline against the Bloodline. Maybe Roman, the Usos. I would like to see Sammy, but it could be Cody against the new Bloodline, and we don't even know where Dwayne's going to stand in this. He could join up with Roman. He could join up with Solo. He could end up usurping the new Bloodline from Solo. There's a lot of directions they can take with this, but clearly Cody and Rock is the big match that they're building up to. So a fun show. Again, did not like a couple of the finishes, but go out of your way to see the Hell in a Cell, and if you have time, the main event. Those two matches were definitely worth it. Not the best PLE at all. A fun show. Had a good time with it. I think the Hell in a Cell match on its own will carry this to being a thumbs up show. What did you think? Let me know down below in the comments, and we'll talk more about it there.